Commander Kelmore looked at the tactical display with mild annoyance. The humans had taken all 72 hours to respond to his generous offer. Their message was typical of primitive species: confusion, fear, and desperate attempts to negotiate. Status: "Report," he ordered from his command throne aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion. "The assessment fleet is ready, Commander," replied his tactical officer. 200 ships, standard pacification loadout, estimated completion time for planetary subjugation: 6 hours. Kelmore nodded. 6 hours was longer than usual, but these humans seemed more organized than most primitive species. They had actually managed to unite their entire planet under on-command structure during the 3-day deadline. Most species spent that time fighting among themselves. Very well. Deploy the assessment fleet. Begin with the destruction of their orbital installations. That usually convinces them to surrender. Quickly. On Earth, Commander Yoon-Soo checked her fighter's weapon systems one more time. Around her, 49 other pilots were doing the same thing. They sat in ships that looked almost crude compared to the sleek alien vessels approaching them. "Phoenix. Squadron, this is Control," came the voice in her headset. "Enemy assessment fleet is moving into attack position. You are cleared for Operation Surprise Party." Yoon-Soo smiled at the codename. Someone in command had a sense of humor. "Copy, Control. Phoenix Squadron is ready to party." She looked at her weapons display. Her fighter carried old-fashioned kinetic railguns and a handful of nuclear missiles. Nothing fancy. Nothing that should worry an advanced alien civilization. But Dr. Choi Min had discovered something interesting about the alien energy shields during the past 3 days. "All units, remember the briefing," Yoon-Soo transmitted to her squadron. "Their shields stop energy weapons and guided projectiles, but they have never seen simple railgun rounds fired at point-blank range." The alien assessment fleet moved past Earth's moon like a school of metal fish. Each ship was 3 times larger than the biggest human vessel. Their hulls gleamed with advanced materials that seemed to bend light around them. "Humans of Earth," came the broadcast from the lead alien ship. "You have chosen poorly. Observe the power of the Vorthak Empire." The alien ships opened fire on the orbital defense platforms around Earth. Bright beams of energy lanced out, striking the platforms and reducing them to glowing debris in seconds. "As you can see, resistance is futile," the alien commander continued. "We will now begin eliminating your surface cities. Surrender immediately to prevent further—" The transmission cut off abruptly. Commander Kelmore stared at his displays, in confusion. 50 small human ships had appeared from behind Earth's moon, moving at impossible speeds directly toward his fleet. "Tactical. What are those ships doing?" he demanded. "Unknown, Commander. They appear to be on a suicide run. No weapon systems detected. Primitive chemical propulsion only." Kelmore almost laughed. "Chemical propulsion? Against our fleet? Have they lost their minds?" But then something happened that Kelmore had never seen in 200 years of conquest. The human fighters opened fire at close range, and their simple metal bullets punched straight through his ship's energy shields like they were not even there. "Impossible," Kelmore shouted. "Our shields stop all projectile weapons." "Sir, these are not normal projectiles," his science officer reported, panic in his voice. "They are solid metal rounds traveling at extreme velocity. Our shields are calibrated for energy weapons and explosive devices. They do not recognize these as threats." Yoon-Soo's fighter screamed past an alien battleship, her railguns firing continuously. The metal rounds tore through the alien hull like paper. Behind her, explosions bloomed as the alien ship's power systems failed. "Phoenix 5 to all units," she called out. "The big ones have weak spots near their engine clusters. Concentrate fire there." Her squadron followed her lead, weaving between the massive alien ships like angry hornets. The aliens tried to return fire, but their energy weapons were designed for long-range combat against stationary targets. The fast-moving human fighters were too small and too quick. Within 30 minutes, 12 alien ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels of the assessment fleet pulled back in confusion. On the surface, Dr. Choi Min watched the battle from her laboratory and smiled. She had spent 3 days studying the alien energy signatures from their first transmission. The aliens were incredibly advanced, but they had one major weakness. They assumed all other species would use technology similar to their own. "General Lim Ho, this is Dr. Choi Min," she called on her communicator. "The energy shield analysis is complete. I have good news and bad news." "Give me the bad news first," came the reply from the ground defense coordinator. "The bad news is that their shields can stop any energy weapon we have. Their ships are almost invulnerable to our lasers and plasma cannons." "And the good news?" "The good news is that their shields cannot stop kinetic weapons traveling below a certain energy threshold. They assume that primitive kinetic weapons are not worth defending against." "What does that mean in simple terms, Doctor?" Dr. Choi Min grinned. "It means that our primitive railguns and missile systems are perfectly designed to kill their advanced starships." On the alien flagship, Commander Kelmore tried to understand what had just happened. His assessment fleet had been designed to defeat any conventional military force. They had overwhelming firepower, impenetrable defenses, and advanced targeting systems, but the humans had not fought conventionally. They had used primitive technology in ways that his shields could not counter. They had attacked at close range with simple weapons that somehow cut through his most advanced defenses. "Commander," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through," Kelmore ordered, his voice tight with anger. The screen showed a human in a military uniform. The translation system identified him as Admiral Park Tae of the Earth Defense Coalition. "Commander Kelmore," the human said calmly, "I believe you wanted to demonstrate the power of your empire. We have seen it. Now let us show you the power of humanity." Before Kelmore could respond, the human admiral continued. "Your assessment fleet has been neutralized. You have lost 12 ships and suffered damage to 30 more. This was accomplished by 50 fighters using what you call primitive technology." Kelmore felt something he had not experienced in decades. Uncertainty. "You have underestimated us," Admiral Park Tae said. "That was your first mistake. Would you like to know what your second mistake was?" "Speak," Kelmore replied coldly. "Your second mistake was thinking that this was our best effort." The human smiled, and Kelmore suddenly felt very cold. "What you have seen today was a training exercise for our pilots. We wanted to test our theories about your shield technology." "Impossible. You cannot have—" "The test was successful," Admiral Park Tae interrupted. "Thank you for providing target practice for our newest pilots. Now, Commander Kelmore, let me make you an offer." Kelmore found himself leaning forward despite his anger. "Leave this system immediately. Return to your empire. Tell them that Earth is under human protection and is not available for conquest." "You dare threaten the Vorthak Empire?" Kelmore snarled. "I am not threatening anyone," the human replied calmly. "I am simply informing you of the facts. You tried to conquer us with 200 ships and failed. What do you think will happen if you send more?" The transmission ended. Kelmore stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. This was not supposed to happen. The assessment fleet had never failed before. Not once in 200 years of expansion. "Commander," his tactical officer said quietly, "what are your orders?" Kelmore thought about returning to the Vorthak homeworld and explaining how 200 advanced warships had been defeated by 50 primitive fighters. He thought about the shame and disgrace that would follow. "Send a message to High Command," he ordered. "Request the Punishment Fleet. 2,000 ships, full combat loadout." "Sir, the Punishment Fleet is reserved for serious military threats. High Command will want to know why." "Tell them," Kelmore said grimly, "that we have encountered a species that does not understand its proper place in the galaxy. Tell them that the humans need to be taught a lesson." As his message traveled across space toward the Vorthak homeworld, Kelmore stared at the small blue planet where the humans lived. They had defeated his assessment fleet, but that was just a minor setback. The Punishment Fleet would show them the true power of the Vorthak Empire. But deep in his mind, a small voice whispered a disturbing question. What if the humans were right? What if this really had been just a training exercise? Kelmore pushed the thought away. It was impossible. No primitive species could stand against the full might of the Vorthak Empire. But as he watched the human fighters return to their planet, In perfect formation, that small voice whispered again, and this time Kelmore could not make it stop. 2 weeks after the destruction of the assessment fleet, the punishment fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. Commander Kelmore stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching as 2,000 Vorthak warships moved into attack. Formation. This time would be different. This time the humans would learn the true cost of defying the Vorthak Empire. Fleet status report, Kelmore ordered. All ships ready for combat operations, Commander, his tactical officer replied. Heavy cruisers in forward positions, dreadnoughts providing fire support, fighter screens deployed. Kelmore nodded with satisfaction. The punishment fleet was 50 times larger than the assessment fleet. It carried planet-killing weapons and enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. No primitive species could stand against such force. Open a channel to the human planet, he commanded. The communication screen activated, showing the same human admiral from before. Admiral Park Tae looked calm and relaxed, as if he had been expecting this call. Commander Kelmore, the human said, I see you brought more ships this time. 2,000 ships, Kelmore replied with cold satisfaction. Enough to reduce your world to ashes. This is your final chance to surrender. Before I answer, Admiral Park Tae said, may I ask you a question? Kelmore was surprised by the request, but nodded. How many worlds has the Vorthak Empire conquered? 847 worlds have been blessed with integration into our domain, Kelmore replied proudly. And how many times have you faced serious resistance? Kelmore paused. It was an odd question. Resistance is always brief. Most species surrender after the first demonstration of our power. I see. Admiral Park Tae smiled that same cold smile. So you have never actually fought a real war? What do you mean? You have been bullying weaker species for so long that you have forgotten what happens when someone fights back properly. The human leaned forward. Commander Kelmore, you are about to receive an education. The transmission ended. Kelmore stared at the blank screen, feeling a familiar cold sensation in his stomach. Captain Song-ji crouched in the maintenance tunnel of the Vorthak heavy cruiser Inevitable Victory. Around him, 12 other members of his boarding team checked their equipment one final time. They had spent 10 days learning how to move through alien ship designs, thanks to the assessment fleet wreckage. Remember the plan, Song-ji whispered into his communicator. The Vorthak have superior technology but inferior tactics. They have never faced boarding actions before. His team nodded. Each soldier carried simple chemical weapons, tear gas, smoke grenades, and old-fashioned firearms. Nothing fancy. Nothing the aliens would expect from a spacefaring civilization. Tech Specialist Bae Young, are you in position? Song-ji asked. Affirmative, Captain. I have access to their computer network. Their cybersecurity is impressive, against advanced attacks, but completely helpless against simple viruses. Song-ji smiled. The Vorthak had made the same mistake with their computer systems that they had made with their shields. They had prepared for advanced threats while ignoring primitive ones. Colonel Obin, status report on the other boarding teams. All teams in position, Captain Song-ji. We have people on 15 different ships, ready to begin simultaneous operations. Song-ji took a deep breath. All teams commence Operation Close Quarters. Show them how humans fight when we get up close and personal. The boarding action began across the Vorthak fleet at exactly the same moment. Human teams burst from hidden positions inside alien ships, using weapons and tactics that the Vorthak had never encountered. On the bridge of Inevitable Victory, the Vorthak captain was studying his attack displays when tear gas began pouring through the ventilation system. The aliens had no protection against chemical weapons. Their medical technology was too advanced to consider such primitive threats. Song-ji and his team moved through the ship like ghosts, using smoke and confusion to their advantage. The Vorthak soldiers were equipped with powerful energy weapons, but they could not target what they could not see. Captain, came the panicked voice of a Vorthak communications officer. We have intruders on 15 ships. They are using some kind of atmospheric poison. On his flagship, Commander Kelmore felt his confidence beginning to crack. How did they get aboard our ships? Unknown, sir. They appeared from maintenance areas that our sensors showed as empty. What Kelmore did not know was that human engineers had spent 2 weeks studying the wreckage of the assessment fleet. They had learned how Vorthak sensors worked and, more importantly, how to hide from them. Tech specialist Bei Young sat in the computer core of a Vorthak dreadnought, her fingers dancing across alien control surfaces. The Vorthak had built incredibly sophisticated defenses against advanced hacking attempts, but they had no protection against someone physically sitting at their main terminal and installing simple malware. "This is too easy," she muttered as she uploaded a virus into the ship's navigation system. The virus was based on computer code from Earth's early internet days, so primitive that the Vorthak systems did not recognize it as a threat. Within minutes, 15 Vorthak ships had lost navigation control. Their own computers began sending false information to their weapon systems. Enemy became friend. Up became down. The sophisticated Vorthak fleet began shooting at itself. Colonel O'Bin stood on the bridge of the captured heavy cruiser, watching as his teams took control of alien technology. The Vorthak had surrendered quickly once they realized that humans were actually inside their ships with weapons. "Interesting," O'Bin said as he studied the alien control systems. "These ships are incredibly advanced, but they require large crews to operate. And look at this, every system is controlled centrally. If you capture the bridge, you control the entire ship." He activated his communicator. "All teams, this is Colonel O'Bin. Priority intelligence update. Vorthak ships have a critical design flaw. They are completely dependent on centralized control. Capture the bridge and you control everything." Dr. Choi Min watched the battle from her laboratory on Earth, analyzing the energy signatures from the captured Vorthak ships. What she saw made her gasp with surprise. "Admiral Park Tae, this is Dr. Choi Min. I have urgent information about Vorthak technology." "Go ahead, Doctor." "Their ships are not just advanced, they are over-specialized. Every system is designed to counter specific types of threats. But because they have conquered so many worlds without serious resistance, they have never adapted to unexpected tactics." "What does that mean for us?" "It means they are like a computer program that only works correctly when given expected inputs. Change the inputs and the program fails." Dr. Choi Min paused, hardly believing her own analysis. "Admiral, I think they are actually more vulnerable than we are." "Explain." "We build our technology to be adaptable because we expect problems and setbacks. They build their technology to be perfect because they never expect to fail. The result is that our primitive systems are actually more flexible than their advanced ones." On the Vorthak flagship, Commander Kelmore watched his fleet falling apart. 15 ships were either captured or disabled. Another 30 ships were firing at their own fleetmates due to computer malfunctions. The humans had somehow turned his technological superiority into a weakness. "Commander," his science officer reported, "the humans are using tactics that are not in any of our military databases. Chemical weapons, physical intrusion, primitive computer viruses. Our defenses were not designed for such crude methods." "How is this possible?" Kelmore demanded. "We have the most advanced military in the galaxy." "That may be the problem, sir. Our technology assumes that enemies will fight using advanced methods. The humans are fighting like primitives. Our systems do not know how to respond." Kelmore stared at the tactical display as more of his ships fell to human boarding parties. For the first time in his long career, he began to understand what the human admiral had meant. The Vorthak had spent so long conquering weaker species that they had forgotten how to fight against an enemy that did not follow the rules. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet." The screen showed Admiral Park Tae again. Behind him, Kelmore could see human officers working at control stations that looked suspiciously like Vorthak technology. "Commander Kelmore," the human said, "thank you for the new ships. My crews are finding them quite educational." "You cannot have captured 15 ships," Kelmore protested. "Actually, it's 23 now," Admiral Park Tae replied calmly. "Your crews surrender very quickly once we board them." I think they are not used to fighting enemies who get close enough to touch them. Kelmore felt panic rising in his chest. This is impossible. You are primitives. You should not be able to, Commander. Admiral Park Tae interrupted. You keep using that word. Primitive. I do not think it means what you think it means. The human leaned back in his chair. You see advanced technology and assume that means advanced thinking. But sometimes the old ways work better than the new ways. Sometimes simple solutions beat complex ones. What do you want? Kelmore asked desperately. The same thing I wanted 2 weeks ago. Leave this system, go home. Tell your empire that Earth is not available for conquest. And if I refuse? Admiral Park Tae smiled, but this time it was not cold. 3 months after the destruction of the Punishment Fleet, the Vorthak Empire made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. They declared humanity a Class 7 threat, the highest military designation in their classification system. For the first time in 200 years, the Vorthak were preparing for total war. Admiral Kang Sol stood in the hidden command center buried deep beneath Mars's surface. Around him, holographic displays showed the movement of the largest military force the Vorthak Empire had ever assembled. 100,000 ships were moving toward Earth, carrying weapons designed to destroy entire solar systems. Status report on Operation Revelation, Kang Sol ordered. Captain Nam Jun stepped forward from the tactical station. All deep space shipyards are operational, Admiral. The hidden fleets are ready for deployment. Kang Sol nodded with satisfaction. For 30 years, humanity had been preparing for this moment. The colonies on Mars and Europa had been cover stories. The real purpose of human expansion had been to build the largest secret military force in galactic history. Dr. Yang Hae, what is the status of the biological warfare program? Dr. Jiang Hai looked up from her research station. The analysis of captured Vorthak prisoners is complete, Admiral. I have good news and disturbing news. Give me both. The good news is that we can create targeted bioweapons that will be extremely effective against Vorthak physiology. Their genetic engineering programs have made them very uniform. What affects one will affect all of them. And the disturbing news. The disturbing news is what we learned about their empire. Admiral, the Vorthak have conquered over 50,000 worlds. They control a territory spanning a quarter of the galaxy. If we fight them, we are not just fighting one species. We are fighting the largest empire in galactic history. Kang Sol was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Then he smiled the same predator smile that seemed to run in the human military. Dr. Jiang Hai, I think you misunderstood which news was disturbing. Sir? 50,000 worlds under. Vorthak control means 50,000 worlds that need to be liberated. This is not just about defending Earth anymore. This is about freedom for every species in the galaxy. Captain Nam Jun stepped forward. Admiral, with respect, our hidden fleet has 5,000 ships. That sounds impressive until you compare it to 100,000 Vorthak vessels. Captain Nam Jun, you are thinking like the Vorthak. You are thinking about numbers and technology. Kang Sol turned to face the entire command center. But humans do not win wars with numbers. We win wars with ideas. He activated the main holographic display, showing the approaching Vorthak armada. The Vorthak expect us to wait here and defend Earth. They expect us to react to their moves. They expect us to fight the way every other species has fought. What are you proposing, Admiral? Asked Captain Nam Jun. I am proposing that we stop reacting and start acting. The Vorthak main fleet is moving toward Earth. That means their home territories are protected by smaller forces. While they come here to destroy us, we will go there and destroy them. The command center fell silent as everyone realized what the Admiral was suggesting. You want to attack the Vorthak homeworld? Dr. Yang Hai asked. Not just the homeworld. I want to attack their entire empire. While they waste time traveling to Earth, we will eliminate their industrial base, free their conquered worlds, and destroy their ability to make war. Admiral, Captain Nam Jun said carefully, that is not a military operation. That is the complete destruction of an entire galactic empire. Yes, Admiral Kang Sol replied simply. It is. He turned to address the entire command center. For 30 years, we have prepared for the day when humanity would be forced to defend itself. But the Vorthak have made one crucial mistake. They have shown us that we are not the only species suffering under their rule. The Admiral activated another display, showing intelligence gathered from captured Vorthak computers. These are the species that the Vorthak have conquered. Thousands of different worlds, billions of different creatures, all forced to serve an empire that sees them as nothing more than resources to be consumed. "Sir," asked one of the communications officers, "how does this change our strategy?" "It changes everything. We are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every world that wants to be free. And that means we have allies. We just need to find them and help them fight back." Dr. Zhang He looked at her research data with new understanding. "Admiral, if we can distribute the bioweapons to resistance groups throughout Vorthak territory..." "Exactly. We turn their own empire against them. Every conquered world becomes a potential ally. Every Vorthak garrison becomes a target." Captain Nam Jun studied the tactical implications. "It could work, Admiral, but it would require perfect coordination across thousands of light years, and we would need to move faster than any military force has ever moved before. Then it is a good thing that humans specialize in doing impossible things," Admiral Kang Sol replied. Over the next week, the largest military operation in human history began to unfold. The hidden shipyards of Mars and Europa released their secret fleets. 5,000 human warships emerged from concealment, armed with weapons that the Vorthak had never seen, but the ships were only part of the plan. Dr. Zhang He worked around the clock to produce biological agents specifically designed to target Vorthak physiology. Tech specialist Bei Young created computer viruses that could spread through Vorthak communication networks. Colonel Oh Bin trained special forces teams for simultaneous strikes across multiple star systems. "This is insane," Captain Nam Jun said as he reviewed the final operational plans. "We are going to attack 50 different Vorthak systems at the same time, using a fleet that officially does not exist, with weapons that should not work against advanced alien technology." "Yes," Admiral Kang Sol agreed. "It is completely insane. That is why it will succeed." The Vorthak main fleet was still 6 weeks away from Earth when Operation Liberation began. Human ships appeared simultaneously in 50 key Vorthak systems, striking military bases, industrial facilities, and command centers. But more importantly, they brought something that the Vorthak had never seen before: hope. On the conquered world of Altair Prime, the local resistance had been fighting a losing battle against Vorthak occupation for 20 years. When human ships appeared in orbit and began attacking Vorthak installations, the resistance leaders could hardly believe what they were seeing. "This is Admiral Kang Sol of the Human Liberation Fleet," came the transmission. "We are here to help you take back your world. Are you ready to fight for your freedom?" The answer came back immediately. "We have been ready for 20 years. Tell us what you need." Within hours, human special forces were working with local resistance fighters, sharing weapons and tactics. Dr. Zhang He's bioweapons proved devastatingly effective against Vorthak troops. The aliens had no immunity to diseases, designed specifically for their genetics, the same pattern repeated across 50 worlds. Human forces provided the firepower and expertise, while local resistance groups provided the manpower and knowledge of Vorthak operations. Tech specialist Bei Young sat in the command center of a human battleship, coordinating cyber attacks across the Vorthak communication network. Her viruses spread from system to system, causing Vorthak commanders to receive false orders and incorrect intelligence. "Admiral," she reported, "the Vorthak are having serious communication problems. Their local commanders are not receiving accurate information about our attacks." "Excellent, that will prevent them from coordinating a proper response." What the Vorthak had thought would be isolated attacks on minor frontier worlds were actually coordinated strikes designed to cripple their entire military infrastructure. Human forces hit shipyards, supply depots, training facilities, and command centers. More importantly, they freed enslaved populations who immediately joined the fight against their former oppressors. Within 3 weeks, 20 Vorthak systems had been liberated completely. Another 30 systems were in open rebellion. The Vorthak Empire, which had seemed invincible just months before, was collapsing from within. On the Vorthak homeworld, the Empire's leaders watched in horror as their territory dissolved around them. Reports came in hourly of new defeats, new rebellions, new disasters. How is this possible? Demanded the Vorthak Emperor. They are one primitive species. How can they be attacking 50 systems simultaneously? My lord, replied his chief military advisor, it appears that the humans have been preparing for this war much longer than we realized. Their fleet is larger than our intelligence indicated, and they are not fighting alone. They have allied with resistance groups throughout our territory. Then send more ships, crush the rebellions. My lord, we cannot. The main fleet is committed to the attack on Earth. Our reserve forces are already engaged trying to stop the human attacks. We do not have enough ships to be everywhere at once. The Emperor stared at the tactical display showing his crumbling empire. For the first time in Vorthak history, they were losing a war. Recall the main fleet, he ordered. My lord, you heard me. Recall the main fleet immediately. We must defend our core systems. But what about Earth? What about the human homeworld? The Emperor looked at his advisor with tired eyes. 6 months after first contact, Fleet Admiral Shinra stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought Righteous Fury, watching as 10,000 human warships prepared for the final assault on the Vorthak homeworld. Around the massive fleet, liberated, alien species flew their own ships alongside human vessels, united in a common purpose. Fleet status report, Shinra ordered. All ships ready for Operation Reckoning, Admiral, reported Captain Yu Bin from the tactical station. Human forces, Liberation allies, and captured Vorthak vessels all responding properly to fleet commands. Shinra nodded with grim satisfaction. The past 6 months had seen the complete transformation of the galactic political landscape. What had started as Earth's desperate defense had become the liberation of half the galaxy. Communications. Open. A channel to the Vorthak homeworld. The main screen activated, showing the Vorthak Emperor sitting on his throne. The alien leader looked tired and defeated, surrounded by empty council chambers where his advisors used to sit. Your Imperial Majesty, Shinra said with mock courtesy, I believe it is time we had a final conversation. Admiral Shinra, the Emperor replied, I assume you have come to demand our surrender. Actually, no. I have come to make you the same offer you made to us 6 months ago. The Emperor's expression shifted to confusion. What offer? Surrender your world. You have 48 hours to comply. Open your communication channels and prepare for our arrival. Resistance will result in the destruction of your population centers. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The Emperor stared at the human admiral, finally understanding the full irony of the situation. Do not attempt to flee, Shinra continued, using the same words the Vorthak had used against Earth. Do not attempt to fight. Your technology has proven insufficient against ours. Your weapons cannot protect your people. Surrender now and 40% of your population will be allowed to live. You cannot be serious, the Emperor whispered. I am completely serious. However, I will make you a better offer than you made us. Shinra leaned forward. Surrender unconditionally. Dismantle your empire and free all conquered worlds. Do this, and 80% of your population will survive. And if we refuse? Admiral Shinra's expression became cold as space itself. Then we will demonstrate why humans do not make idle threats. The transmission ended. On the Vorthak homeworld, the Emperor looked around his empty throne room and realized that he had no choice left. His empire was gone, his fleets were destroyed, and his people were facing the same extinction he had offered to countless other species. Ambassador Quan Aye stepped forward from her position behind Admiral Shinra. Admiral, the Liberation Fleet reports that all former Vorthak territories have been secured. We have successfully freed over 30,000 worlds from Imperial control. Casualties? Shinra asked. Minimal on our side. The biological weapons proved extremely effective, and most Vorthak garrisons surrendered when faced with joint human liberation forces. Captain Yu Bin looked up from his tactical display. "Admiral, I am reading massive energy signatures from the Vorthak homeworld. It appears they are powering up their planetary defense systems." Shinra sighed. "Then they have chosen the hard way." What followed was not really a battle. It was a demonstration of what happened when a species that had never learned to lose faced a species that had never learned to quit. The human fleet moved toward the Vorthak homeworld like an unstoppable tide. Vorthak planetary defenses opened fire with weapons capable of destroying entire moons. But human ships had been designed by people who expected their enemies to shoot back. Human vessels absorbed hits that should have vaporized them, their adaptive armor systems learning and adjusting to each attack. When Vorthak energy weapons proved ineffective, human ships switched to kinetic bombardment, dropping simple metal rods from orbit at tremendous velocities. Captain Yu Bin commanded the human boarding forces that fought their way through Vorthak ground installations. Unlike the space battles, the ground fighting was brutal and personal, but the humans had one crucial advantage. They were fighting for an idea, while the Vorthak were fighting for an empire that no longer existed. "Admiral," Captain Yu Bin reported from the surface, "Vorthak ground forces are requesting terms for surrender." "What terms are they offering?" Shinra asked. "They want to be allowed to maintain control of their homeworld in exchange for a formal peace treaty." Shinra was quiet for a moment. Then he activated his communicator to address the entire human fleet. "All ships, this is Fleet Admiral Shinra. The enemy is requesting terms for partial surrender. They want to negotiate a treaty that allows them to keep their homeworld while giving up their empire." He paused, letting the weight of his next words sink in. "This is not acceptable. 6 months ago they offered us slavery and called it mercy. They told us that 40% of humanity could live as workers in their empire. They gave us no choice except total submission or total destruction." Shinra's voice became harder. "Today, we will show them the same mercy they showed to every species they conquered, the same mercy they planned to show to Earth." "Admiral," came the voice of Ambassador Quan A. "What are your orders?" "The Vorthak Empire dies today. Not just their military, not just their government. The entire idea that one species can enslave, another dies with them. We will accept nothing less than unconditional surrender and the complete dismantling of everything they built." The final assault on the Vorthak homeworld lasted 12 hours. When it was over, the Vorthak Empire, which had controlled a quarter of the galaxy for 200 years, simply ceased to exist. The Vorthak Emperor was brought before Admiral Shinra in chains, his throne room now occupied by human soldiers and liberated aliens from dozens of different species. "Your Imperial Majesty," Shinra said, "your empire is finished. Your fleets are destroyed. Your territories are free. Your people are defeated." "What do you want from us now?" the Emperor asked quietly. "I want you to understand something," Shinra replied. "Every species you conquered, every world you enslaved, every civilization you destroyed, they all had the same right to exist that you claim for yourselves." The Admiral gestured to the liberated aliens standing around the throne room. "These people are here to witness the end of your empire. They represent 30,000 worlds that you thought you could control forever." "We were bringing order to the galaxy," the Emperor protested. "We were creating peace through unity. You were creating slavery through conquest," Ambassador Quan I interrupted. "And now you will face the same choice you gave to everyone else. Surrender completely or face extinction." The Emperor looked around at the faces surrounding him. Human, alien, all united in their hatred of what his empire had represented. "Surrender," he said finally. "The Vorthak Empire surrenders unconditionally." "Good," Admiral Shinra replied. "Now we discuss the terms." 1 year later, Captain Yu Bin stood on the observation deck of a human exploration vessel, watching as construction crews from 50 different species worked together to build a new space station. The Galactic Liberation Council was establishing its headquarters here, in the system that had once been the heart of the Vorthak Empire. "Captain," came the voice of his communications officer. "We are receiving a distress call from the Rigel system. An unknown species is attempting to conquer the local population." Captain Yu Bin smiled. It was the same predator smile that had become famous throughout the galaxy. "Set course for Rigel," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir, shouldn't we contact the Liberation Council first? Get authorization for military intervention?" "The Council gave us standing orders 1 year ago," Captain Yu Bin replied. "Any species that attempts galactic conquest will receive the same treatment as the Vorthak Empire." As his ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, Captain Yu Bin thought about how much the galaxy had changed. The Vorthak were gone, reduced to a single world under human protection. Their former territories were now independent systems, free to develop their own governments and cultures. But most importantly, every species in the galaxy now understood a simple truth. Humans would not tolerate slavery, conquest, or empire building. The galaxy's new peacekeepers were a species that had learned to fight wars not for territory or resources, but for principles. In the depths of space, alien civilizations that had been planning their own campaigns of conquest quietly abandoned those plans. The story of Earth's resistance had spread throughout the galaxy, along with a simple message that every potential conqueror now understood: never anger the humans. The Vorthak had expected Earth to yield. Instead, they had awakened something that would reshape the galaxy forever. A species that refused to accept that might makes right, and had the power to enforce that belief on anyone who disagreed. And in the ruins of the Vorthak homeworld, now a monument to the folly of empire, a simple plaque bore the final words that Admiral Shin-Ra had spoken to the Vorthak Emperor. "You offered us slavery and called it peace. We offered you freedom and called it justice. The choice was always yours. You chose poorly." Captain Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the massive space station ahead. The Sol Dawn was Earth's biggest and best ship, but next to Nexus Prime, it looked like a tiny toy. The alien station was bigger than Earth's moon and covered in strange lights that hurt his eyes to look at. "Captain, we are getting a message," said his communications officer. "They want us to follow their ships to the docking bay." Kim Tae-ho nodded. This was the moment Earth had waited for. After 50 years of flying in space, humans were finally going to meet the Galactic Council. They hoped to join the galaxy's most powerful group and make friends with alien races. Ambassador Park Hae-jin walked onto the bridge. She was Earth's smartest diplomat and had spent years learning about alien cultures. Today she would speak for all of humanity. "How do I look?" she asked Kim Tae-ho. "Perfect," he said. She wore Earth's finest clothes and carried a small device with information about human history and culture. "Remember," she said to the captain, "we must show them that humans are peaceful and smart. We want to trade with them and learn from them." The Sol Dawn followed the alien escort ships through the docking area. Kim Tae-ho had never seen so many different types of spacecraft. Some looked like crystal diamonds, others like giant insects, and some were just balls of bright energy. Each ship belonged to a different alien race. Admiral Lee Do-kyung contacted them from Earth. His old face appeared on the screen, looking worried. "How are things going up there?" "We just arrived," Kim Tae-ho said. "The ambassador is ready to meet them." "Good luck," Lee Do-kyung said. "The whole planet is watching. Make us proud." After docking, Kim Tae-ho and Ambassador Park Hae-jin walked through the station's halls. The walls were made of something that looked like living metal, and strange symbols glowed everywhere. Alien creatures walked past them, but none looked friendly. Some pointed at the humans and made sounds that might have been laughter. A tall, thin alien with blue skin met them at a doorway. "I am Translator Zin," it said in perfect English. "Follow me to the council chamber." They walked through more halls until they reached enormous doors that were taller than buildings. The doors opened with a sound like thunder, and they stepped inside. The council chamber was huge. 12 different alien species sat on floating platforms around a giant circle. Each platform held the leaders of one race. In the center of the circle was a small stage where humans were supposed to stand. Kim Tae-ho looked around at the aliens. The Nexari looked like walking crystals that sparkled with their own light. Their leader, Counselor Vexithera, was the biggest and brightest of them all. The Krathen looked like giant ants but walked on 2 legs and had 4 arms. The Solari were just floating balls of energy that hurt to look at directly. Humans. Vexithera's voice filled the chamber like breaking glass. You may speak. Ambassador. Park Hee-jin stepped forward. She was not afraid, even though she felt very small in this giant room. Great Council, she began. We come from Earth in peace. We want to join your community and learn from your wisdom. Some of the aliens made sounds that were clearly laughter. Others just stared at her like she was an interesting bug. We offer friendship and trade, Park Hee-jin continued. Humans are good at solving problems and working hard. We can help build things and share our ideas. She activated her device and holographic images of Earth appeared in the air. Pictures of human cities, art, music, and science floated around the chamber. She showed them humans helping each other during disasters and working together on great projects. We know we are new to space travel, she said, but we learn quickly. We want to be good neighbors to all species in the galaxy. When she finished, the chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then Vexithera spoke again. You want to join the Galactic Council? The crystal being's voice sounded amused. You think your primitive species deserves to sit with races that have ruled the stars for thousands of years? We hope to earn that right, Park Hye-jin said politely. Suddenly, new holographic images appeared in the chamber. But these were not the peaceful pictures that Park Hye-jin had shown. These were images of human wars, soldiers fighting, cities burning, weapons exploding. The aliens had somehow found Earth's history of conflicts and were displaying them for everyone to see. This is what humans do, said a Krathen counselor with a voice like clicking insects. They fight and kill their own kind. They destroy their own planet. Look at their primitive weapons, laughed another alien. They still use metal bullets and chemical explosives. Kim Tae-ho felt his face turn red with anger, but he stayed quiet. This was the ambassador's job. Every species has had conflicts in their past, Park Hee-jin said calmly. We have learned from our mistakes and grown beyond them. Have you? Vexithera asked. Your species achieved spaceflight only 50 years ago. Other races here have been traveling between stars for 10,000 years. What makes you think you are ready to join us? The questions continued for hours. Every time Park Hee-jin tried to explain something good about humanity, the council found ways to make it sound bad. When she talked about human creativity, they called it chaos. When she mentioned human determination, they called it stubbornness. Finally, Vexithera stood up. The crystal being was 3 times taller than any human and glowed with cold light. We have heard enough, Vexithera announced. The Galactic Council has made its decision about the human species. Park Hye-jin and Kim Tae-ho waited. Around them, the 12 alien species watched with what looked like amusement. Humans are not ready to join galactic civilization, Vexithera said. Your species is too violent, too primitive, and too dangerous. We cannot allow such creatures to roam freely among peaceful worlds. Kim Tae-ho felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Therefore, Vexithera continued, the Council places these restrictions on humanity. Your species will stay in your own solar system. Any human ship found beyond the edge of your sun's influence will be destroyed immediately. No species in the galaxy is allowed to trade with humans or help them in any way. Any species caught helping humans will face the same punishment. You are putting us in a cage, Park Hye-jin said quietly. Yes, Vexithera said, and now the crystal being definitely sounded amused. Your species will remain caged until you learn civilization. If you ever do. The other council members made sounds of agreement. Some were laughing. This decision cannot be changed, Vexithera said. Return to your little world and think about what you have learned here today. Perhaps in a few thousand years, your species will be ready to try again. The massive doors opened, and alien guards appeared to escort the humans out. As they walked back through the station's halls, Kim Tae-ho saw aliens pointing at them and making laughing sounds. News of the council's decision was already spreading. The humans who had come in hope were leaving in shame. On the Seoul Dawn, Kim Tae-ho contacted Admiral Lee Do-kyung. The old man's face fell as they explained what had happened. They rejected us completely, Park Hee-jin said. They think we are nothing but violent animals, and they have trapped us in our own solar system. Kim Tae-ho added, any ship that leaves will be destroyed. Lee Do-kyung was quiet for a long time. Then he said, come home. We will figure out what to do next. As the Seoul Dawn left Nexus, Prime, Kim Tae-ho looked back at the massive station. The aliens inside were probably already forgetting about the primitive humans who had dared to ask for membership in their exclusive club. But Kim Tae-ho would never forget this day. None of them would. The whole human race had been humiliated in front of the galaxy's most powerful beings. They had been called animals and locked in a cage like dangerous pets. The captain made a promise to himself as Earth's blue ball grew, larger in front of them. Someday, somehow, humans would make the Galactic Council regret this day. The aliens thought they were superior, but they had just made a very big mistake. They had made humanity angry.